What is your vibe when you paint? Do you have a sip of wine, a little spirits, or is it music playing whenever you're creating?
So I definitely use music in a very strong way. If I don't have the right vibe going, then the brain just does not open up.
How did you know that you could put a price tag on your art and sell it to the people? Like, when was that? What was that experience like the first time doing that?
Sometimes art just isn't all about the technique. Sometimes it has to do with the story you're telling, and also people can connect with the person who's creating it. So that sells the work just as much as the talent does as well.
What's up, good people? Welcome back to SC Power Moves. I'm your guy, Aubrey Dunbar. I'm here in the great state of South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina, to be exact, the historic downtown district at the Gibbes Museum. We have a special guest here. He's one of the best artists in Charleston, South Carolina. We might as well say in South Carolina, period. I'm here with Arun Drummond, folk artist, Arun Drummond, one of the best to do it. Let's talk about it, man. Welcome to the show, Arun.
Well, Aubrey, first of all, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
It's always an honor when people want to sit down and talk with me and get to understand my story, what brought me to the art world, and I'm always happy to share it. So let's get into it.
Most definitely. So let's talk about like the beginning. Like, were you into the arts as a child? Were you a doodler or someone that draws constantly?
As a kid, I was pretty decent at art. I just took art classes like everyone else did. I wasn't in the special arts or anything like that. Okay. It really wasn't until I was an adult when my art career really started to blossom. Okay. I started actually my art career not as an artist, but as an art gallery manager. Wow. I was working for a local art gallery that specialized in Gullah art, specifically the art of Jonathan Green, who is a well-known South Carolina artist. Okay. So doing that every day, it inspired me to start creating my own art. Being surrounded by such creative people and just such creativity as a whole, it sparked that in me. So I would go home and create these abstract paintings. Okay. I almost use those as a therapy. And I was just doing them for myself. But then you fast forward a few years later, and I started thinking about my father who had passed. Okay. And I realized a lot of the stories from his upbringing passed away along with him. Wow. So I started creating folk art, more representational art where I could actually tell those stories. Nice. And those were the first two types of art that I really got serious about. Okay. Yeah.
So what separates folk art from abstract art to, I guess, modern day art?
Sure. So I used to call myself a folk artist. Okay. Now I kind of identify as a multidisciplinary artist because I think I've branched out into more than one discipline. Dope. But most of the time when you think about a folk artist, it means it's someone that is self-taught, or it can describe someone who is using natural materials or just using materials that they have easy access to get to. Wow. So it's about, being more primitive and a more simple way of creating without a formal training. That's what folk art really describes. And that's totally where I got my start because I don't have a formal education or training in art. I just paint the things that have meaning to me. Nice. Yeah.
So working in the official art gallery, would that count as, I guess, like your official, training?
That was absolutely
learning on the job, I guess.
Sure, that was my real world education. Yeah. I was having a conversation with another artist earlier this week, and we were talking about my background. He said, stop saying that you don't have an education. Those 16 years are more education than a lot of people with degrees will ever have when it comes to dealing with art. So they said, don't sell yourself short. Yeah. You've got plenty of education. It just came in a different form factor.
16 years in the business, man.
Yeah.
That's big time. So I didn't know that. I would have put that in the introduction, good people.
Yeah.
So 16 years of hands-on art gallery experience. So how did that translate into your work? Did you end up I don't know, being too inspired by other artists and putting that into your work also in the beginning?
You know, I didn't want to borrow too much from other artists.
I like that word, borrow.
Borrow, you know, because you know we all do it. All creatives, you know, you get ideas from other people and you may not even realize it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want that to be very, you know, too apparent in my work. So I think that's why I started off with the abstract work.
Got it.
But once I got serious about preservation, that's when you start thinking about using things like sweetgrass baskets or painting imagery that may, you know, look like some other artist, because we're kind of all telling the same story of documenting and preserving the rich Gullah culture that's here on the coast.
Tired of ads that don't convert? Let SCPM Media change the game. Get seen by the right audience on every platform: Google, YouTube, Facebook. We'll make your brand stand out everywhere. AI-powered tools help maximize reach and save precious time. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to measurable results. We focus on growth so you can focus on your business. Boost engagement with strategies crafted just for your goals. Stay ahead of the competition with proven digital solutions. Get tailored solutions for your brand. Book your session now.
The Gullah culture. Talk a little bit about the Gullah culture here in South Carolina or in Charleston, and how did that impact the way you created?
You know,
well, create, not created.
Absolutely. You know, managing the gallery that we talked about before made me realize how important Gullah culture was. When someone walked into that space, it became my purpose to, if they didn't already know about the culture, to educate them and to make sure that they realized how important this culture was. Because if we don't start documenting it, preserving it, then it will become lost. You know, so that's my main motivation in using Gullah imagery in my work, is to make sure that I'm doing my part to help preserve the culture. So that's my main motivation. And then you fast forward now, my newest work that I'm working on, the Erasure series, I'm actually, go ahead.
Erasure?
Erasure.
Erasure.
Yeah, so we're talking about cultural erasure, which is something that is very prominent in the climate and the world that we live in today. I mean, a lot of the institutions that honor culture and honor the arts are being compromised. So I'm making sure that my art plays a part in helping to document and preserve this culture, because right now the culture is being threatened.
So in a sense, some of the, are you talking in particular about certain programs that have been phased out in the local area?
Exactly, not only in the local area, but nationally. And I don't like to get too much into politics, so we'll just kind of leave it general like that. But I'm always going to make sure that I'm doing my part to counteract against those things that are happening. And that's why artwork can be such a powerful thing. You can use it in protest. You can use art as storytelling. You can use art to connect people. You know, and that's part of my goal.
So when you were creating those first pieces, like your first originals, what did they look like compared to the work that we're about to go in and check out a little bit later on?
You know, my first work, looked more like primitive folk art. You know, the lines were not crisp. The story was there, and the intention was there. But, you know, I didn't have the hours under my belt. You know, they say you need 10,000 hours of something to practice in order to become proficient at it. And I didn't have those 10,000 hours, and you could see that in my work. But now you fast forward, you know, I have been living, working, and supporting myself as an artist for the past 5 years.
That's big.
You know, I even have an employee that helps me with my art business and my art career. So I'm providing opportunities for people. You know, so when you look at how far I have come with my artwork, it's a lot different from those more crude, primitive folk art paintings, because I've put the time in over the past 5 years.
Over the past 5, so you've been through several different phases throughout this past 5 years. So I guess you can call it the beginner's phase, where you're trying to fill your your own style out,
Right.
and then at what moment in the last 5 years did you feel like, all right, well, I'm stepping into my own. This is Andrew. I know it was always evolving, but right now this is what Arun Drummond art is all about at this particular moment. Did you hit a mark?
You know, I hit a couple of marks. You know, when I got my first solo exhibit, it let me know that I had hit a stride, that people were really paying attention to what I was doing. Then I got a couple of other solo exhibits after that, and I started to get comfortable in that space.
Yep.
But I think it was this past year when both of the major museums in the Charleston area, the Gibbes Art Museum and also the International African American Museum, both invited me to have my artwork as part of their museum stores.
Nice.
That really let me know that I was doing something that people cared about.
Yeah.
I was living in my purpose, and now I'm getting recognition from institutions that matter.
Right.
And that's when I realized that I have hit a mark, and now it's just up from there.
Right. So is it like, I guess, being a singer, as far as like being an artist, is it? What's up, good people? Today's show has been brought to you by Opus Clips. Ready to elevate your video content? Join Opus Clips. Unlock premium editing features, exclusive templates, and advanced tools designed to bring your creativity to life. Sign up through my link below to snag bonuses just for my viewers. What are you waiting for? Opus Clips. It's designed to save you time and elevate your content. Like being a singer where you're depending on the validation from the people to make you feel like, okay, I got something here, or was it all self-confidence?
It's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of creative people, you know, we all are self-conscious about our art. We all are, you know, putting ourselves out there for public scrutiny.
That's right.
So I've definitely in the first few years had to really navigate that. And there were times when I didn't have the confidence.
Okay.
But once I started getting recognition from folks that were part of the culture, that were patting me on the back, telling me how great of a good job I was doing, honoring the culture, that was one thing that boosted that confidence.
Yeah.
And then, obviously when I'm doing sales and I hear feedback from those clients about how my work has affected them, that boosts my confidence, letting me know that I'm connecting with people on an emotional level with this work.
Dope.
And then going back to the institutions.
Yeah.
That was like the third tier that gave me the confidence to not only keep going, but to realize that I can do bigger things. And I'm planning on doing something really big this year, which is opening a new studio, gallery where I can not only showcase my artwork, but also have space for other artists to show their work as well.
I like to talk about the gallery a lot more.
Sure.
I have another question. One more question before I get into the gallery.
Sure.
So, as far as like validation from the people, how did you know that you knew you had something? You knew you had like the institutions and you had validation from the people. How did you know that you could put a price tag on your art and sell it to the people? Like, when was that? What was that experience like the first time doing that?
Yeah, that actually goes back to my final year of managing the gallery that I was managing.
But so you were already used to selling art.
I'm used to selling art.
That's
And I was creating this work in the last year that I was still working for this gallery. And the owner said, Aaron, you know what? Why don't you bring some of your art into our gallery space and see how it does? So for this owner to give me, or to have the confidence that what was at the time my primitive folk art, so he gave me the confidence to bring it into his space and to test the market.
So you guys already like sharing, where you were already sharing with him, like this is where I'm at, this is what I'm working on?
Yeah, and he said, sure, bring it on in. And we put it on the floor, and eventually the first one sold, the second one sold, the third one sold, and it let me know that sometimes art just isn't all about the technique. You know, sometimes it has to do with the story you're telling, and also people can connect with the person who's creating it. So that sells the work just as much as the talent does as well.
Got you.
Yeah.
So how important is the storytelling when you're creating? Does every piece has its own in particular story?
Absolutely. Storytelling is the single most powerful part of my artwork. It's the single most powerful thing in general. You know, whether it's storytelling through writing, through photojournalism, through painting and creating art, or through music, it's all the most powerful way to do storytelling. So it's definitely at the forefront of what I do. And with the storytelling, I pair symbolism with. There's a lot of symbolism in my art where if I don't tell it to you or don't have it printed out, you wouldn't understand the story in as much of a deep way. So, so storytelling definitely is a main part of what I do.
Got it. So good people, we're here on the inside of the Gibbes Museum. We're back here with Arun Drummond, and this is his beautiful display inside the Gibbes Museum. So Arun, can you give us a quick tour of give us a quick tour of your work and what you have on display?
Of course. You know, I want to start with some of my most colorful artwork because a lot of folks don't realize that was how I really got my foot into the art world, is through bright, bold colors. You know, so in a lot of these paintings here, these are actually prints on canvas, where I'm storytelling, even though it's simplistic, but it's about me honoring my father, who grew up in rural South Carolina. You know, telling a lot of the stories that he had. You know, honoring my grandmother, Miss Thornton, the matriarch of our family. You know, it's telling these same stories, but using those bold colors to grab your attention for them.
Right.
But what most people know me for, though, is my natural series. Natural series where I'm painting on birch with fingers, painting on linen, more specifically unbleached linen, that's more of a natural material, because I feel like it highlights the natural materials that are in the art. If you look back here, this is a large example, and it showcases how I'm painting the figures almost the same color as the background. That is to basically symbolize how if you don't document and preserve the culture, it will fade away into the background. So I'm using symbolism in a very bold way. I'm also leaving these baskets unfinished to showcase that if you don't document and preserve the culture, then it will be lost. So I'm leaving the baskets unfinished to showcase that this is a project that is not done. It is not done. As we move around, you'll see this series here. It's my Stripes, Lines, and Lineage series. I did those paintings specifically or exclusively for the Gibbes Art Museum. And you'll find those in their museum store if you ever are in Charleston visiting the museum. And the largest piece I have here is called Generations. You know, it speaks to passing down the traditions of each generation to another, which is something that is not being done as often, and why a lot of the culture is at risk. And lastly, these paintings here are part of the series I call Convergence. It's where I take those first colorful bold paintings and blend them with my natural series to where they converge in one place, where we're bringing tradition together with a modern aesthetic and combining those two things. It's the most recent series that I've done, and I think it really speaks to where I'm at in my career right now, because I love blending different styles and experimenting with different styles, and this combination is really honoring what I'm doing currently in my practice. Yeah, so that kind of wraps up where I'm at in my career, but my art is always evolving. I'm never sure what the next thing is going to be. So be on the lookout for it, and I hope to see you in the future.
What's up, good people? I hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to show your support, head over to divinededicatedclothing.com and check out our SC Power Moves merch shop. All right? Support the show. Appreciate it. Let's go. What's up, good people? I hope you're enjoying the show with Aaron. Make sure you guys head over to Divine Dedicated Clothing and check out some of the SC Power Moves merch. Get you a couple pieces. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts, we have sweatsuits, all SC Power Moves. All the proceeds go into the show, back into the show. It lets me keep traveling around the South doing these interviews and also putting gas in the tank, you know. But I appreciate y'all. Also, shout out to Shopify. Check the link in the description. All my viewers get a hefty percentage off. I'm not sure what it is, but you can also start your Shopify store, your Shopify experience with $1 for 3 months. That's still right, Aaron?
That's right.
That's right. $1 for 3 months. Check the link in the description. You can get your online store, your online business started right away with just $1 with Shopify. Check the link in the description. And also, today, this show has been brought to you by Opus Clips. Don't have time to clip up your entire long form content? Use Opus Clips. It's AI generated. Let the AI help you clip up your long form content so you can create shorts, Instagram reels, stories, TikToks, go viral. Use Opus Clips. Check the link in the description. Welcome back to SC Power Moves. I'm back here with Arun Drummond, Charleston, South Carolina. We're back. All right. So Aaron, you're very, very admired amongst your peers in the art scene. You've become sort of a mentor to one of our mutual colleagues.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be right if we just, he wanted me to present you with a couple questions that he had directly from him. And this is from Demetrius Bing.
Nice.
Art of Bing. We got paper, people.
Beautiful.
All right, so it says questions for Aaron. What inspires you to create when you feel uninspired? That's a good question.
Wow, that's a very good question because, with the way my artistry works, I am not just creating art and having 1 or 2 exhibits every year. My art is kind of in 2 different worlds. Mm-hmm. I have art that powers my business, that pays my bills every day, and wow. I have to really stay regimented to create the pieces that I know that people are going to buy, so that so that every month and every week, we're hitting our goals as far as that's concerned. And then I have to really stay rigid when it comes to carving out time to create art for me that feeds my soul and that creativity. So I have these 2 different roles that I have to play.
Yeah.
And I feel like the first role of creating the art that doesn't necessarily inspire me, but the art that people love for me to do, that's what motivates me to get those pieces done, so that I can work on the things that I do have a lot of passion behind. So it's almost like my motivation is built in. Right. It's like I have to create these things, but those things give me the space, the flexibility, and the energy to create the things that I love.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when you're creating for yourself, mm-hmm. Is it kind of like R&D? Is that like the research and development stage? And then you're like, okay, I like this. Mm-hmm. Do you like do a tester and put it out to the people?
Totally, yeah. It's research and development. But even with research and development, all of those passion pieces are always going to have some sort of element of social change. They're going to have some sort of cultural significance. So that's what drives me first. So even though I'm experimenting with doing that in different mediums, like I said, multidisciplinary, but that's always going to be the root of what I do, and the experimentation is the fun part.
Got you. That's a great way to structure it, man. Hey, man, you've done the science, bro.
I'm getting the reps in.
That's right, the reps. Yeah. One more from Demetrius. What is your vibe when you paint? Do you have a sip of wine, a little spirits, or is it music playing whenever you're creating?
That's a good question as well. When I first started this painting journey, not 20 years ago, but this 5 years ago, when it became my full-time gig. I used to definitely have a glass of wine or a little nip of this or a nip of that while I was painting, and it loosened me up, and I always enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But for the past 2 years, I've been alcohol free, and maybe not a lot of people know that about me. Okay. So I've had to find other ways to kind of get into that mindset, to relax my mind so the creativity can come out.
Yeah.
So I definitely use music in a very strong way. If I don't have the right vibe going, then the brain just does not open up. It stays closed. So
what's the top songs?
I listen to a very broad range of music. I'm gonna let y'all know that most of the time I'm listening to music that's almost. Let me make sure I'm using the right descriptors here. Like music that is calming to my system.
Like lo-fi?
Lo-fi, whether it's lo-fi beats or whether it is pure just soundscapes, things that don't even have a bass line. And that's what really, gets my mind on the right wavelength to where I can concentrate. It's almost like study music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do that too. I listen to it's certain channels out there on YouTube. I'm just gonna give y'all this.
Right.
There's certain channels out there on YouTube that you can tune into. They're called the God frequency channel, or it'll be like, it's a certain frequency that it calms your mind and makes you focus. They call it focus music. Some people call it lo-fi music, but there's a certain frequency that you can tune in that really it resonates with your brain waves. So just to put that out there, just search it on YouTube.
I use it like a tool.
Yeah.
And I don't use it all the time. Don't get me wrong. I will wild out with some trap or with some soul or with pop and all these other things too. I mean, I use all of them because sometimes the one that I use as a tool isn't right for the moment.
Right.
So I have to go back to things that jog my memory, that take me back to things that get me in the right place.
That's right. That's 1,000% correct. And I use it when I'm really, really doing some deep work. Like far as if I'm working on something that's like a campaign that's very, very serious. Shout out, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a shout out, SCPM Media. So all of your marketing needs, if you're a business owner, if you're if you're into e-com, if you're an event planner, you have space to rent out, anything that you need, SCPM Media can help you with your marketing, social media marketing campaigns. So check the link in the description, click on the form, and we'll help you out. But anyway, if I'm working on something for like a bar and grill, it's like an event, I'm probably gonna be playing some, maybe some Chris Brown or something like that. In there, I'm just in there in an R&B mood. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But music can help match what you're working on, and
totally, and
use it as a productive tool if possible. But
exactly.
The gallery.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about the gallery at length?
I can go into a little bit of it. I'll go ahead and just
introduce the gallery. Yeah.
So this year, my plan was just to find a new studio. Right now I have a small studio space that I've been painting out of for the past 2 years. Yeah. And I've kind of outgrown it. So earlier in the year, I started looking for new studio space and couldn't really find what I needed. So then I started looking at spaces that were larger than what I needed. And it made me realize that what if I got one of these spaces, used it for my studio, but also provided studio space for another artist or two. And on top of that, maybe it could provide space for us to showcase our work or host other artists. So that's what I did. I found a space that could work in both of those realms. Yeah. And it's called Drummond Studio Gallery. I feel like opening this space is me getting back to my roots from when I used to manage a gallery. And it's like a full circle for me. Because now that I've established my art career, now I can start giving back. Yeah. So I signed the lease on this space, and right now it's under construction. We're doing some finishes on the inside and doing great lighting and everything to make it look like a fine art gallery. So it's taken some time, and it's been a little bit of a learning curve, because never having done construction in a commercial space or dealt with the city with permits and licensing and things like that, things are taking a little bit longer than I expected. But you know what? That's part of the journey.
It's part of the process.
I'm learning a lot, and when it's open, it's open, and you all will find out.
That's right.
But right now we're getting it ready, and I can't wait to share it once it's done.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So before we close, I do want to give you a chance to I wanted to talk about the gallery, but I also wanted to talk about, like, where can people find your work? Maybe a website, maybe
Absolutely, yeah. So I know this goes out to more than just South Carolina, but you can find my work all throughout the state of South Carolina at the two major museums that I mentioned here in Charleston, the Gibbes Art Museum and also the International African American Museum. You can find my work at the South Carolina Artisan Center in Walterboro, South Carolina. I'm honored to have my work there with so many other local artists from the state.
Walterboro.
If you're in Charleston, you can find me at many of the different markets, the Charleston City Market, the Farmers Market, and the Second Sundays, where they close off King Street every Sunday. So it's easy to find me. But then online, you're going to find my work or find me at Drummond Studio Gallery. That showcases me, and you can follow along the journey as I get this gallery open. Or you can follow Arun Drummond Studio on Instagram, and that's my personal art page to find out, new exhibits and everything that's going on with my art. And most importantly, my brand new website that I am super proud of. It's drummondstudiogallery.com.
Right.
And right now I'm the only artist that is currently on there, but as we start to grow the roster at Drummond Studio Gallery, those new artists will be included as well. So that's where my main place where you can find me online.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now this is one of my most favorite segments of the SC Power Move show. Shout outs. This is a time for Arun Drummond to give a shout out or show some love to his supporters. It can be anybody that's supported you along your journey.
The first thing I really think about is the people who gave me a shot before I became successful in this art career. And that is Mr. Chuma. Chuma is the owner of the gallery that I worked for 16 years.
Okay.
And he is from Lagos, Nigeria originally.
Nice.
And what he taught me was that part of his culture is when someone is loyal to you, let's say you have an employee or someone that's just loyal to you in some sort of way, the way you pay them back for that loyalty is to help get them set up for what their next business or their next journey or adventure is. And for so many years, I didn't realize that what Chuma was doing was setting me up for this next adventure, and I didn't even realize it. So for him to see in me that I have the ability to do the things that I'm doing right now, I have to give him a huge shout out for believing in the talent and giving me the support I needed to grow into that next chapter.
Nice.
Nice.
Anyone else?
I got to thank, my family. Without them, I wouldn't be who I am. And most important, man, shout out to me for believing in myself.
That's right.
There's so many times in my life, I've got a colorful past and ups and downs, and, we all have a story.
That's right.
And there's times where I never would have believed that my life would look the way that it looks, or that I would, be able to climb out of some of the situations I had myself in.
That's right.
In this life. So shout out to me for being persistent and believing in myself when a lot of people probably would have given up. So
that's right.
So shout out to me.
Love it, man. Some dope shout outs.
Yeah.
I'll give my couple shout outs. Shout out to my family. #1. My Uncle Junior mixing up there in New Jersey.
Nice.
I was about to say New Jersey, South Carolina. I'm so South Carolina. Shout out to my Uncle Junior up there in New Jersey. My grandmother, my father, my mother, my sister. Shout out to the whole family, man. We've just been having a blast traveling lately, and shout out to the whole family. Shout out to all the supporters of the show. Individuals like Aaron that have been brave enough to come on the show and tell their story and tell their truth. And I try to get these interviews to inspire the people, man. So y'all know that, hey, man, it took Aaron, but 16 years in the business, 16 years plus in the business. He's still growing.
21 years total.
21 years total.
Yeah.
So he's still growing and still learning. It took him 16 years, but then he branched out on his own. And 5 years later, he's still making money. He's still going. I guess shout out to me, man. I'm still going too, man. I'm still growing, still going.
Exactly.
So I appreciate y'all, South Carolina Power Move. Anything else that you want to lead the people?
Man, I think we left it all on the table.
Yeah. Okay. Literally left it all on the table. But thank y'all, man. Y'all can find SC Power Moves at scpowermoves.com. That's where you can find the podcast, the audio version of the show. You can also check us out on Spotify for the audio version of the show, and of course Amazon Podcast. I think that's what they call it. You find the show also in the main frame, which is YouTube. I mean the main thing, which is YouTube. You can actually catch the show. But yeah, man, I really do appreciate everybody that's been supporting the show lately, especially the city of Charleston. We've been this is a lot where a lot of the talent lives. So love y'all, man. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. It's been Aubrey Dunbar, Arun Drummond. Thank y'all. Peace. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share.